How are you, boys and girls? Mudsy here from Muay Thai Interviews again. And my next guest, he was born in Scotland, raised in New Zealand, but now lives in Melbourne, Australia. He runs his successful Supafight Gym in St Kilda. He's fought in Japan, Raja Stadium back in the day. He has trained many champions, and now his students are becoming teachers themselves. Thanks to the help and guidance over the years, I'm joined by Don Millar. How are you, mate?
Hey, Marty. Good, thank you.
How's it all going out there?
It's pretty cold, mate, actually.
Yeah.
Melbourne winter. But, you get used to it.
I'll never get used to the cold, mate. Never.
Yeah, no, I don't like it, but what can you do,
Just gotta carry on.
Got to carry on, mate. 3 months of the year, not too bad.
3 out of 12 is not too bad, brother. Mate, everyone knows you as Don, the trainer of many champions and great fighters. They all come out with nice and beautiful Thai technique style. But many, like myself, don't know too much about your fighting career. Would you be able to fill us in on how you found Muay Thai and a bit about your fighting career?
No problem. I read about Muay Thai first when I was like a teenager in a magazine. I won't say what magazine because it's a Penthouse, Penthouse magazine. There's an actual article, believe it or not, in Muay Thai in Thailand, and with a lot of photos of the guys fighting and stuff.
Good marketing there.
Years later, I came across a few gyms, and I went to a few different sort of clubs, but it wasn't pure Muay Thai. And then I went to my first Thai boxing show, would have been maybe 93. And it was Thai Gym. It was their show. The trainer's name was Utai Pornacon. He's pretty well known to the Aussies because he's fought some of the biggest Aussie names back in the day. And it was their show, or his show, and the boys were kicking ass. I just loved their style. It's just the basic no-nonsense Thai style. So I was hooked after that, and I ended up joining up at Thai Gym probably around 94, 95. No, mid-94, I think. I first went there. And I trained for 5 months.
Yep.
And then I had my first fight. And then it just took off from there.
Mate, I saw a photo today of you posing for a fight in Japan. What was that experience
Wayne Park came across that.
Yeah.
That was a really nice surprise. I don't know what happened. I had a few magazines like that, and I don't know where they are. You just sort of misplace stuff over the years, but it was funny and sort of nostalgic to sort of see it again. I think that was around 99 in Tokyo. I fought there a couple of times a long time ago. That was an experience. Very sort of fun to see that again, and a lot of piss take from all my mates and how I used to look, the boy band look. It goes with the territory. As I said, it was in black and white as well, so it's a long time ago.
Yeah, and like just as we were talking before, I assumed it was under kickboxing or K1 rules, but you were telling me it was actually fought under Muay Thai rules in Japan.
Yeah, no, there's always been a fairly strong Muay Thai scene, a very professional scene in Japan. The guys train full time, and the level, especially the smaller weight divisions, they're very good, very good. So Muay Thai's been big over there. I think, since probably 70s and 80s, and then the 90s, I think that's when the big superstars came out, and they had plenty of them. And they had a lot of Thais over there training them, so they learnt the guys like Masato, who was a K1 fighter, but
yep.
he did fight Muay Thai, and then he sort of went under the K1 banner. His trainer, I think, was Nuotomi, if my memory serves me correct, who was a Golden Era legend, featherweight legend, whose nickname was the Rhino, and Force. He was a very strong Muay Thai style fighter, and that ended up being Masato's trainer. I think I got that one right from memory. But yeah, Muay Thai's huge in Japan. K1 is bigger, but Muay Thai's there, and it's pretty big.
Yeah, I mean,
always been there.
Because Japan's like, they're big in all aspects of martial arts. It's sort of
definitely
it's what they do, whether it's karate, taekwondo, Muay Thai, whatever it is. They've always been really, really good in martial arts, and it's always something that they always will be good at.
I've seen them beat Thais, fairly good Thais as well, not just the pad holder style Thai. They do 5-3s over there with a 1 minute break, rather than the 2, and they start fast and they love chopping the legs. They really go for you. Back leg, front leg, they just go for it, and the hands are strong. They've got really good sort of solid boxing skills, and they're very fit, and they go in there to win, and they go in there to hurt you.
They do.
It's not as relaxed as fighting in Thailand.
Nah, and I think that's what throws a lot of Thais off, is they're always used to that slow start, but the Japanese, they don't start slow.
Once the Thais have a few fights in Japan, they realise what's the style they're going up against, and they adapt to it, and they do. They do good. The good ones do very good over there. Like Sang Tien Noi was a big name in Japan. He actually fought Raymond Decker there in, I think, 91 or 1990. It might have even been the first fight. They know what they're doing over there.
Yeah, and actually, one thing I'm keen to get your opinion on is, no doubt you would have seen, or at least heard about the Rotdang went over there last month, and he fought the Japanese fella. I forget the Japanese fella's name under K1 rules, and it went to.
Yeah, I watched a few rounds of that. The last few rounds, it was, people were surprised that I wasn't. It's just the way it is over there. You've got to drop them to win, really, or you've got to really, really dominate them. And their scoring style methods are different. It's still not the same as Thailand. There's nowhere like Thailand. The pure Muay Thai is from Thailand. That's it. Outside it's diluted, no matter what country you're going to, where you are.
Yeah, definitely. Because I couldn't get my head around the K1 scoring, and I still can't. I need someone to sit down and explain it to me.
Yeah. It just varies where you go, country to country. That's what I found about K1. It's just the way it is. Muay Thai in Japan, it's similar. You're fighting their superstar. You've got to knock them out to win.
Yeah.
And it's the same with K1 as well. Actually, one of my students fought Masato. I can't remember the year, maybe 2004, Goran Danilovic. Took him over there and fought. That was an eye opener. I've been over there many times, taking students over there. One of my old boys, one of my first students, actually. A lot of people wouldn't know of him, but Ben Spivak, he was quite well known in the older sort of Muay Thai scene, maybe 10 years ago.
Yep.
He actually, I took him over to Japan around 2004 or 5. He was about 19. He ended up knocking out the All Japan featherweight shootboxing champ in round 3.
Oh, really?
So that was a big win there, considering he was still a kid. So I really like Japan, really like going over there. I've got some, great memories of the place, and so other trips I've got no memories because I had too much sake, so 50-50 really, but yeah, great place.
That's when you know it was a good trip then?
Yeah, for sure.
And you've also fought at Raja Stadium back in 98. What gym in Bangkok were you training at the time?
I went over to Nakhon Park View, Sang Monaco with Ja Tui, with the help of my good friend Darren Rees, who I've known since I moved to Melbourne. We used to train together, and he really got me, pushed me to the next level to get over there. So it was all thanks to Darren. He helped me out, and we stayed together there. And I fought there, I think it was April in '98 on Sunday Arvo. And there wasn't many Europeans sort of fighting there. There was no, it was all Thais when I was there. And that was, I couldn't walk properly for 2 weeks after that fight. It was a mess. I lost on points. I fought a pretty good fighter. I went the distance, but yeah, I'd only had about 12, 13 fights at that stage, so it was definitely an eye-opener.
Yeah, and probably a year or two ago, I read in an interview that you did a while back that you actually stopped fighting and decided to become a trainer because you just had that many pullouts that it wasn't becoming feasible anymore.
Yeah, that's true. I had quite a few pullouts when I was in Melbourne. I was training under Dana Goodson and had a few fights for him. And then I moved to Melbourne and I was training under Ron Parr when he moved over from Perth. And I'd get matched up. Sometimes, you know, I'd go up a weight division or even two. The local fighters were, you know, back in those days it was kickboxing. And they didn't want to fight Muay Thai, but the ones that did, a lot of them pulled out on me, and it just sort of, you know, I was training and working, and then they pulled out on me, and it just got to me in the end. It was like, I'm training, I want to fight, but I'm training. I'm only getting 2 fights a year. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I had you know, after a while, I just got sick of it, and Ray Matsumura, who was used to run the Bunchu shows in Gold Coast, he said, why don't you become a trainer? Because you're good at it and you like it and you've got some experience behind you. And I just thought, you know, I opened my first gym, I think, Supafight Gym around 2000 or 2001 out in the eastern suburbs of Melbourne. And never looked back, really.
So your first gym was Superlek. How did you come up with the name Supafight?
Superlek, I got that name. I just liked the fighter, and you know, I'm only a little guy, and it just sort of stuck, and I, you know, used that name. Years later, when I met Sang-Tien Noi in '98, when he actually fought in Melbourne, fought at the Crown Casino, fought Marcus Mangan from Sydney, who was Australia's top welterweight. I went along, I was at the weigh-in and I met all the Thais, but I knew who Sang-Tien was. I watched his fights for years. And that's when we first met and became friends. And later on, years later, he said I should go by the name of Don Millar Muay Thai because that's my name. The name Supafight Gym came when I did my first show in, when was it, 2010 or something. I did Supafight Promotions with a friend of mine who's no longer in Melbourne, and we just liked the name. We just liked Supafight Promotions, and that's when I opened Supafight Gym. I just kept the same name with the Don Millar Muay Thai connected with it, so everyone knew it was me that was the teacher there.
Oh, okay. Yep, definitely.
So that's how that came about, yeah.
And what are some differences you've noticed in regards to training in Thailand when you used to train as a student as opposed to training in Thailand today?
It was harder then, I think. I think the hours are a bit longer. There was less Europeans there, and there was no mats on the ground. I've noticed pretty much most of the Thai gyms now have the mats down, which is a good thing, I guess, for your body. But back then, it was all on the concrete, and only the strong survived. So, you know, the average good gym back in those days would do 4 hours in the morning, 4 hours in the evening.
Jesus.
Whereas now, I think a lot of the top gyms that just have Thais maybe still do that, or do possibly 3 hours morning and 4 hours in the afternoon. And also back then, the younger kids, the rural kids, mainly out in Isan in the northeast, you know, they would quit school at 12.
Yep.
They finish school at 12 and go pro and go full time.
Jesus.
And now, you know, that was, you know, frowned upon, and now the rules have changed. So the kids have to get an education, which is a good thing because they've got something else to fall back on if they need to.
Yeah, definitely.
So it was harder then, back in those days, for everyone, not just the Europeans. It's bigger now. Muay Thai's popular more in the outside world, business-wise and that kind of thing. There's a lot more gyms now in Thailand and outside of Thailand than there was 10, 15 years ago. I've noticed that, which is a good thing. But yeah, training was harder, I think. And I think the further you go back, I think the fighters were more special, and they were just, like, for instance, Golden Era champions usually held their belts for years. There's guys that held on to their belts for 3 or 4 years. That's how good they were. And, you know, remember they were training longer then compared to the guys now. So it just makes sense that they were, to me, better athletes.
And do you think, because I've had this conversation with other people, do you think the reason why they call it the Golden Era and because they were so a lot better than what we regard as not everyone, but a lot of fighters today, is because back then that's all they had, Muay Thai, whereas today kids have got, you know, they've got Muay Thai, they're getting education, they've got like the football or soccer, whatever you want to call it. They got the internet, they got mobile phones, so they've got a lot of other like outside distractions or a lot of other things that they can fall on besides Muay Thai. Whereas back in the day, it was either you either make it in Muay Thai or you go and work on a farm, or there wasn't as many choices.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely, there's more distractions and there's more opportunities, I guess, for some of them. I mean, there's gyms still out in the rural areas in South Thailand and pockets throughout Thailand that still train the old ways, like Chap Mukau. They're out in Buriram, they're Khmer Gym. That's their first language in Thai. They haven't changed their ways, and they produce their champions from scratch. And they still kept that old tradition, and they will drive, 8 hours or so in the pickup truck to Bangkok, fight in the stadiums, usually win, or they're all, A-class fighters, and then they'll drive back, after the fights.
Yeah.
And, but I don't know. I just think the guys around now, they tend to sort of chop and change. There'll be one guy who's a superstar, and a few months later, there's another champion. They just don't seem to hold on to there's more belts around now. I just think they were harder to get in those days, and they were more sought after. I think the prestige of fighting in the stadiums like Raja and Lumpini, well, Lumpini's not really around anymore, real Lumpini. It was harder. It's definitely harder for Europeans as well in that time. Guys like Danny Bill, who I think would walk through any of the competition around now at his weight, Thai or non-Thai. He didn't get a chance to fight for a belt because they knew how good he was. And, I think it's just watered down a bit more now. Like, anyone can fight Raja, anyone can fight Lumpini, and I just feel like they get the belts out a bit easily now because they get the Westerners through the gate and they make a bit of money, whereas back in the day they would fill the stadium just with Thais, 10,000, 11,000.
Yeah. And
the bets were bigger back then, I think, as well.
Yeah, definitely. Cause
the golden era is gone, but it's not forgotten.
No, definitely. And every time I go to... I've ever been to Lumpini or Raja, they're always trying to get you to sit ringside, and I'm like, I don't like sitting ringside. I hate sitting. Yeah. I don't like sitting eye level with the ring. I like to be sitting elevated just a little bit.
for sure.
And plus,
Yeah, well, you know, they make money from it, don't they?
They do, mate. They've all got to make money
That's
somehow.
that's what it's about.
And what are your thoughts on training in Thailand as opposed to training in Australia these days?
Sorry, mate. Say again.
What are your thoughts on training in Thailand as opposed to like training in Australia these days?
Are you comparing the two?
Yeah.
For a fighter or just for somebody?
Mate, it can be. Let's go with a fight. Let's go with a fight.
If you want to be the best that you can be, and you're serious about it, then you need to get to Thailand if you want to learn Muay Thai. You can stay here and train. You're only going to get to about 50% of the level you could by immersing yourself over there in Thailand.
Yeah, and like, what are your thoughts on like old school training as opposed to new school training, like strength and conditioning? Because there seems to be like new, different training methods that people seem to come up with these days. Are you a fan more of the old school or the new school or both?
I'm definitely. Sorry, mate. I just opened another beer.
That's fine, mate.
I'm definitely more of the old school because I think if it's not broken, then it doesn't need fixing.
Yeah.
That kind of mentality. But in saying that, the strength and conditioning does sort of have a positive sort of place in training with any sport.
Yep.
As long as it's helping you with something that's specific to what you're doing, so specific to Muay Thai. But you can go overboard with it as well. I believe the best way to get a harder kick is kick the bag 1,000,000 times and kick the pads 1,000,000 times and practice that kick. And doing certain exercises, too many of them is, I've got a guy now that does a lot of these types of exercises. He's very, very ripped, he does, 20 minutes of it a day, but it hasn't helped him really as a fighter because he needs to do more of the fundamentals,
Yeah.
Like he needs to learn how to move properly and clinch more and kick pads more, and it would be the same for anyone doing that. And it all depends on the person as well. The Thais don't tend to do that much of it. Some of them, I've noticed some of the gyms are incorporating that, and that's great because it's probably a breath of fresh air for them as well. But you'll find that the bona fide, true stadium champs, 99% of the time are just doing old-fashioned Muay Thai training.
Yeah. And speaking, like, I know you're more of a fan of the old school training ways. What are your thoughts? How do you get your fighters cutting weight?
Good question. Cutting weight, it depends on the fighter, I guess. If he's a big guy, a female, or a little guy, it's and everyone's different. But I don't really like them to sort of drop more than 10% or so of their body, from their top weight. So 5 kilos if it's a big guy, like maybe 8 kilos. But if they're training all the time, 5 or 6 kilos is doable in 24 to 48 hours.
Yeah.
Water loading, running with the sweatsuits. I believe in that a few days out. But just being smart with it as well. And years ago, I used to make my guys do that and not eat. And everyone was doing that for 2 days, but I've changed my methods,
Yeah.
And I make sure they eat. I make sure they train, they sweat, they eat a little bit, then they train, they sweat, they eat a little bit. And I'm not a big fan of saunas unless it's like you're interstate, there's nothing else around and it might be raining outside. I think if the body's not used to a sauna and you're running all the time and training all the time, and that's what your body's used to, then you go and sit in a really, really hot sauna and you're running out of time. I think it can be negative as well. Not that good for the brain, but my guys have used it But yeah, some guys. I mean, look, my guys, I just like them to run. They have oil massages with a numbing Muay. They're eating certain foods. They're drinking. They're water loading. That's something I believe in.
Yep.
And then they cut the water 24 hours out.
I met a good little fighter from your gym at the end of last year at Zipmanshire, Tom Cannon.
Mm-hmm.
And he was telling
young Tommy, yeah,
young Tommy, and he was telling me because he does it. He runs like when he cuts weight, he runs with a sweatsuit. But he was saying like in Thailand he can go running with a sweatsuit and just go for like, you know, a 4K run, and because it's so hot,
he drops the weight easy.
He'll drop the weight.
Sure.
But when he was training for fights in Melbourne, because it was so bloody cold, he'd run like 4 kilometres and only cut.
Well, that's it. Yeah, you've got to do your skipping inside with a sweatsuit on, and that's when you probably would, you know, at the last minute if they needed to go to the sauna. Another thing, my students, mainly the females over the last couple of years, across the road from my gym, we've got a grassroots yoga, and they have the hot yoga on, and getting, you know, the girls will go over there and they'll drop 1.5 kilos, sometimes 2 kilos in one sesh, without overdoing it. It's not too hot, and they're just there in their tracksuit, and they're getting a stretch at the same time, and it's something they've done before, you know, a few times, so they're used to it. And it's, find that really is a good thing. I think for my guys. Yeah,
man, should even get not only the females but get the males doing it too. There's nothing wrong with males doing yoga.
Sure. Yeah, well, I got a guy who can't run, a little French kid with me at the moment. He's had about, I don't know, 3 or 4 fights for me. He cycles everywhere. He's a Uber Eats delivery guy.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And he does about 200 or 300 k's a week on the push bike.
Yeah.
And you know, that's his cardio. And he walks around. He cuts quite a lot of weight, but he does it easily. You know, he gets his sweatsuit on and off he goes delivering his Uber Eats, and he'll drop 3 or 4 kilos in 24 hours easy.
Mate, if he's cycling 200-300 k's a week, I bet he's got some quads on him.
He's a little battery, this guy. He's a little Terminator, and yeah, he's ripped. He's you know, he's a tough little guy, like Tommy as well. Tommy's a tough little guy, and he's with good technique. So I'm sort of glad he's over at Zipmanshire. It was my choice for the gym for him actually. So I'm glad he stuck it out there.
No, he's doing well, man. I hope he stays there for a bit, and it looks like he's found love, so he's pretty happy. So he probably won't be coming back for a while.
Yeah, he's gone to the dark side, mate.
Shout out to you, Tommy. We love you, buddy. Now, mate, we've had a chat about Thailand, a bit about your fighting career. I'm keen to get your thoughts on officiating in Australia. Do you think it's getting better, or do you still think it's staying the same?
Officiating, definitely better, definitely. But it's, you know, it's still taking a while, but we're getting there. I think the only place where, you know, Muay Thai will be Muay Thai is Thailand. It's just the way it is,
Yeah.
But there's great guys. You know, a good mate of mine, Andy Parnham in New South Wales, from PTJ Muay Thai. He's had a lot to do with pushing the sport forward up there and making it pure, which needs to happen everywhere. There's good fighters everywhere, there's good gyms everywhere, but the officiating, there's a lot to be said. You know, one of the main problems is the way the boards score things. We're still in the boxing sort of routine mentality where they score a 5-round, let's say 5-3 is a pro fight, like a boxing fight. Round 1, you know, red corner 10, blue corner 9, but in Muay Thai, proper Muay Thai in Thailand, it's how you finish the fight. It's not how you start it.
Yeah.
And if you start it too soon, if you start too fast, and then you show any kind of fatigue in the later rounds, you're not going to win. So it's the same here. They just think, to me, this is my opinion, round 1 is not as important as round 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Round 2 is not as important as 4 or 5 either. So people can fight about this all day, but Muay Thai is not boxing.
Yeah.
And Muay Thai is not kickboxing or K1. Muay Thai is Muay Thai.
Yeah, I have noticed that. It's like you can win the first 3 rounds and then take rounds 4 and 5 off, but if you've won the first 3, then you've done enough to win the fight, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that's, why should we do everything differently to how the Thais do it? We wear the mongkons, the pajet, the hakama, we go over there, we got sakyan all over our bodies, which no one can read. You don't even, it's become like a fashion accessory for a lot of the young guys now.
Yeah.
But we don't want to take the whole package and learn how to how the fight is really scored.
That's right.
So, you can't have one way, not the other.
No, and
most of those people that do score like that are the people that haven't been to Thailand, haven't spent time there, they haven't trained there or fought there properly. They're the ones that are scoring these fights.
Yeah.
So it's definitely getting better, but it's taken 20 years.
Yeah, but better late than never, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, and in saying, like, talking about Thai style and traditional and everything, I have noticed from all the fight shows that I've watched that you do get your girls or your women to go under the ropes. You are a pure Thai stylist. What are your thoughts on that? And does it really bother you, or do you really care, like, if when females don't go under the ropes, that they go over the ropes?
It doesn't. I mean, look, if they're not from my gym, it doesn't really bother me. It's like you see it all the time, but I just understand probably more about the sport than the Thai. I'm married to a Thai, and I've had a lot to do with Thailand over the last 15 years, so I understand the reasons why. Yeah. The women approach the ring and enter the ring differently to the men. And it's, and my wife agrees with me, so there's a lot of people that don't. And, well, you're wearing a mongkon, why don't you're trying to emulate something that's from Thailand, but you don't want to take, like I said before, the whole package.
Yeah.
You just want to take what suits you, so.
Mate, did you see, the Phoenix promotion in Thailand?
Who was on it?
Like Yusuf and his brother and...
Yeah, I saw clips of it.
His brother, Yassine, he fought... his name's ex-UFC fighter, James McSweeney, big heavyweight dude. And it was fought at Lumpini, and he took his... I forget what you call them, the things that go around your neck. He took them off and placed them on the ground and took his own mongkon off.
Oh, wow. Yeah, no, I didn't see that.
That was at Lumpini. He took his own mongkon off, and it was just like, oh, you probably shouldn't have done that at, like, if anywhere, like nowhere, but Lumpini.
But was it a Thai promoter or?
It's he's I think he's Lebanese or Moroccan or something. Charlie Yaqub or something like that.
Okay. Well, the Thais there wouldn't have probably been that many Thais there, so no one would have cared, but yeah. No. You see it all, you see it all over the years.
You do, mate. And currently, which state in Australia do you think is the strongest in Muay Thai and why?
I'd say WA for sure. I think there's a lot of good quality gyms over there, and there's a lot of fighters there. That's the main reason. I think years ago it would have been Queensland, but I think WA, they've taken the reins. Maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, they've taken over. There's great gyms, Blair Smith at the Pit, Darren Reese, Calsock, Thumon's gym. There's tons of good gyms over there. and they know what they're doing.
Yeah, and I think it's also good that like they're like, yeah, as you mentioned, like Pamorn, like his father Pon, he owns his gym now. You know, Pamorn opened his own gym, and like you're starting to see a shift of not only in WA but everywhere in Australia, of students now becoming trainers, or you know, senior mentors, and helping other people.
Yeah, it's great. It's growing. It's definitely growing.
And one thing I know you're extremely proud of is how far one of your students has come, Sam Bark. He came to your gym from Sweden. He came to Australia, and he fought and beat everyone in his weight division. Then you helped him get set up at Saint Tinoi Gym in Bangkok, and watched him make a massive impression
for sure
in Thailand.
Yeah, he became a superstar. You know, he lived at Saint Tin's. He did the hard yards for 3 years, which is no easy task to do that at his gym. Sam came to me with a couple of other kids from Sweden years ago when they were 19, and he moved into my gym and slept above the changing room for about 6-7 months, and you know, did his fruit picking and you know, running around being a scallywag as you do as a teenager. And he only had one fight for me then, because he was, you know, so had to meet his visa requirements with work and whatnot, and we just didn't get him on any other shows. And that was against, whose show was that on? I think it was George Kolovos on Chapel Street, I think, from memory. And he fought Eden Sayadi from Sydney, who was a big puncher.
Yeah, from VT1.
Very big puncher. He's knocked out a lot of guys. And Sam had a war with him and beat him. I remember all his mates were making fun of Sam before the fight, excuse me, saying he looked like a kid that worked behind the counter at McDonald's, which is funny because it's kind of true, he did, you know. So we had a good laugh about that. And then Sam beat him, and he, you know, we became very close. You know, he's close with my family, and he asked me, Don, I want to get serious. And I'm like, okay, well, you need to go back to Sweden, work, and then you need to go to St. Noy's gym if you're serious, and then we'll see how long you last. And I didn't think he'd be able to stick it out, but he proved me wrong. He did. And yeah, now everyone knows who Sam Bark is.
Definitely.
In the world. He's a big name.
Absolutely, mate. And how did you come to decide on St. Tinoi Gym would be right for him?
Well, Sam, I knew he was tough. He was a very tough kid. I just thought, you know, I'd sent a few of my fighters there before him, and Ben Spivak and Brett Franklin, I sent those guys there when they were, I think, 19, and little Benny lasted 7 months. Brett Franklin lasted 11. And I was like, you know what, Sam, see if you can beat 11 months. And he did. Actually, he lasted 11 months, then he went home, then he came back. But all in all, it was 3 years in total. So, yeah, he's the winner in that respect.
Definitely, because I actually, probably earlier this year, I had a chat with Sam, and he told me that before he came out to Australia, he basically sent a bunch of emails out to all different gyms, and you were the only one that got back to him. So
yeah, they turned up at the door, and it was just 3 young guys, you know, and they're good kids, all of them. And you know, he's a hard worker, Sam. He's a good kid. He's got a big heart, and he deserves everything he's got now. That's for sure.
Definitely, mate. And I know you still stay in regular contact with him. So do you know what his future plans are? Is he just happy being a trainer?
No, he wrote to me on Sunday morning or Saturday night, and you know, it was a big message, so it must have taken him ages because he's kind of like me. We're not that great typing. he said I might see you soon, but I don't want to say too much.
Yep. Okay.
He's definitely going to fight. He just needed a break. He was at probably the hardest gym in Thailand to be at for a while, for 3 years. So he needs a break, and it's to sort of regenerate. And when you've come that far and had as many big fights in a short time as Sam has had, and that's all you know, then you can't just stop. When you're 25, you're still young. 26, you've still got a few years left in him for sure. Got 4 or 5 years in him. So yeah, hopefully we'll be seeing Sam back in Australia soon.
Oh mate,
possibly even this year.
You're getting me excited.
Yeah, I know. So I just said, mate, let's just see what happens. Keep working. He's training over there. He's teaching them. It puts a smile on my face seeing him teach these kids and do all those seminars.
Mate, I've been.
Because,
Sorry, I've been keeping keeping a little track of him and seeing the little videos that he's been putting up, and he seems to really enjoy teaching students.
Oh, he's great, and he's got a lot of knowledge to pass on. You know, he's been fighting Thais and Japanese and everybody, all the top fighters around this side of the world for years. He had about 8 or 9 fights for me in Australia. And they're all against big names, you know, like Chad Collins and Alexei and Tum Sit-Yatong, and just to name a few of them. So he's got a lot of fight experience. He's probably around the 70 fight mark now, and he's got a lot of training experience at a tough gym, at a good gym in Thailand.
And before he came,
in 2003, actually, Sanktian's gym was voted toughest gym in Thailand. So that's you know, that's a pretty tough gym.
Yeah, no doubt. And before he actually came to your gym, did you know like that he was as good as he is, or did you sort of just worked it out as he went along?
You mean Sam?
Yeah, Sam. Yeah.
Before he came to my gym the first time.
Yeah,
he was just a kid with about maybe 8 to 10 fights under his belt, maybe.
Yeah.
Like some of them padded, so he was a tough kid, and he had some natural ability, but he had a totally different style back then, you know, obviously. And Sanktian gave him his style and named him Saman Decker after Raman Decker. So, you know, he had a good punch, but he was good. And then, like when I trained Sam when he was with us, I like to see him kick. So when you see him fight on the shows like Rebellion, you know, and he won a K1 fight here, I don't know, a year ago or so. It was an 8-man, 65 kilo. He had a broken hand, but we did a 6-week training camp. He just kick as well, because his right hand was still broken. And he just walked through everyone with his kicks, mainly his kicks. So he's got heavy weapons, you know, above and below his waistline. Like his kicks are pretty solid as well.
Yeah, man, and he's an absolute joy to watch.
Yeah.
And not that people needed any more proof that your training methods work and that you're known for making your fighters train hard. And you can see that it pays off in the ring. But quite a few of your ex-students have also gone on to become trainers themselves. And that's,
yeah, for sure.
And that's sort of just a testament to you and your training methods and the way you train your students. How does that feel, knowing that you played a key part in a lot of these people's Muay Thai's journeys and seeing how far they've come?
It puts a smile on my face. It's you know, it's a good feeling, because imagine being a trainer and, you know, you've had 4 or 5 generations of fighters over, say, 15 years or so, and none of them become trainers. You're the only one. It's like, you know, it wouldn't be a good feeling. So a lot of my guys have gone on, like, you know, with Keith Grant, used to be one of my students maybe 10 years ago, and he still comes in and helps me out with my fighters. He's at Immersion. promotion out in Glen Waverley, and he's the head trainer there. He's doing really well. They got tons of students. Even Andy Colgrave was one of my students around the same time as Keith. He's at Ring Gym, which is a pretty good gym in Melbourne. O'Neill Ortega and Reese, they're at the two Dominance gyms, and they've got a good little fight crew coming through now, amateur, and a couple of guys fighting without the pads as well. So yeah, it's fantastic passing it on and seeing the guys, you know, go out on their own and passing on their knowledge, because, you know, that's the way it should be done.
Yeah, and it's good that everyone's working together. You know, they're going out and opening or working in other gyms, but everyone's still coming together. It's not like this is our gym, this is your gym. That's how it is.
No, we definitely, some of us are real tight. You know, the guys spar in each other's gyms and, you know, fight each other on shows and have a beer afterwards. That's all part of the sport. That's what, you know, makes it great.
Definitely, mate. And because you have trained quite a few champions, I'm keen to get your thoughts on what do you think makes a champion, and how are they made? Like, for example, do you think like a person with talent but doesn't work as hard as they could, or as opposed to someone who works hard but does not necessarily have that natural ability like that other person? What do you think works and why?
Well, every trainer who's been around over a decade or 2 decades, they would have had their fair share of guys with a lot of talent. But I think the hard work, you know, you look at the Thais, it's the hard training and you know, that's in direct sort of correlation to the long training, hard training to becoming a champion rather than the talent, because a lot of the talented guys, they don't stick around long enough to become champions because maybe ego gets in the way. So hard work for sure. I'd definitely say hard work over natural talent.
And definitely, because I guess talent will only take you so far, and if you don't keep working, then you're not going to progress. Whether someone who doesn't have that natural ability.
Well, a lot of people who've got talent and then they have a few fights and they might get a few losses because they haven't trained hard enough. And if they have an ego and that gets in the way, and it often does, they don't stick around too long. So if they don't stick around too long, they're not going to be champion, are they?
Definitely, mate, and it sort of separates the boys from the men or the girls from the women.
Sure.
And mate, a few weeks ago, you put up a post offering women free self-defense classes in Melbourne at your gym after that horrible murder which was committed in Melbourne. Is that still going on? And if women or anyone would like to come and train at Supafight Gym, how can they get more info on that?
Yeah, that was maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago. It's a tragic thing, you know, to happen anywhere. And I just thought something needed to be done, and I wanted to offer something to the community. So I had a pretty good response with that from females. The classes are running a couple of weeks now, and I'm going to run it to the end of August, 2 days a week at my gym, so they can find the info either you know, on my Facebook or the web page, or there's been a few articles in the local papers as well. So yeah, hopefully people continue to share it and they can get it and take advantage of it, because it's a good offer, and it's not just myself, it's some of my friends that are helping out with it. And the ladies and girls that are turning up they're really sort of getting there. I'm not just working self-defense, we're working on their fitness and being aware as well, that kind of thing, the whole package. And some of them are signing up for the Muay Thai because they've sort of seen my girls training and gone, wow, it's pretty amazing, and how do I sign up? So yeah.
Definitely.
Thai boxing training and the self-defense, I kind of mix them in together with those specific classes anyway.
Yeah, and because I also noticed Hammer as well. He put up a post like offering like ambulance and paramedics and people that serve the community free. That which I thought was really really cool because
great.
we're just seeing too many people get attacked from dickheads basically trying to do their job and help people. You know.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's a good thing. It's a great thing.
It is, mate. So yeah, props to you for that. Now, mate, if people wish to follow you or stay up to date with what's happening with your gym or with fights or gym activities, etc., how can they stay up to date with all that?
Facebook, it's Supafight Gym and Don Millar Muay Thai. So they find one of those, they'll find the other one. And then it's Supafight on Instagram. And then the webpage is www.superfightgym.com.au, and my email is info@superfightgym.com.au. So they can just, click on any of those and they'll be able to find out more about us and the times that we're operating.
Nice, mate. I hope people do get onto that. And mate, last but not least, anyone you wish to thank or give a shout out to?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks to you for calling me, Muggsy, and letting me do this interview. And I'd like to thank a few people. I want to say thanks to Darren Reese for pushing me all those years ago. Thanks, Riddler, because he was a big part in the beginning when I moved over here from New Zealand. I want to say a big thank you to my original trainer, Thai over in Auckland. I know he's around, I'm not sure where, but he's out there somewhere. He's the guy that really inspired me. And big shout out to Sai from Rebellion. He's really changed the scene here in the last 10 years or so. I've seen him go from strength to strength, and Melbourne Muay Thai is what it is today is because of him. Thanks to Andy Parnham up in Sydney for flying the torch high and bright for Muay Thai, doing good things. And my pad holder, Jared, I couldn't do it without him, and I reckon he's probably the best pad holder I've ever had. He's just everything that I need, the style that I like. He knows what I want. So yeah, and to all my students, thank you.
Well, mate,
keep coming up, keep turning up.
Well, mate, I just want to say thank you for having a chat, because prior to this, I'd heard a lot about you and seen you at all the fight shows that I watch, because I don't get to go to a lot of them because I work away, but I purchase all the streams, so I'd heard a lot about you. But glad that I finally got the chance to have a bit of a yarn with you, mate, and pick your brains about a few things.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
All right, thanks for your time, Don.
Okay, Muggsy. Thank you, buddy.
Cheers.
See you, mate. Bye-bye. And I'd like to thank my good buddy over in WA, Blair Smith at the pit. Love you, buddy. Pinky in South Australia, love you. Glenn up in Queensland, Andy Parnham, and Sai. Thanks, guys. Love you all. Juk, juk.